Okay guys, so inline validation, what exactly is that? Well, basically it's client-side validation opposed to server-side validation. Uh, so the information you enter validate right there when you enter them without having to go through a script on your server. And that's called, local validation, inline, whatever you want to call it. And the advantages are that you get the immediate feedback from it. I mean, you type in something and you get a check mark, a green check saying, yeah, what the stuff that you put in there is the correct format, or it's not, if you get a red X or something. So that is very helpful when filling out a very long form. So instead of using the traditional method, when you click the sign in button or the submit button, the data gets sent to the server, it's verified, and if there are errors, you get a response showing a bunch of errors. Um, Using inline validation, you fill in, if it's not right, it tells you, and you change it until you get it right. And that way, when you click the submit button, uh, you actually submit the form because you already know the data. All the data that you put in is correct. Now, don't get me wrong, I still prefer server-side validation, and the inline one is definitely not a substitute. It's just something that will make the whole experience of filling a form, feel more human. Um, so I'm just going to show you a couple of stuff today from using HTML5 and CSS3, along with a script from CSS Ninja that will help us achieve the effects that we want. So first of all, let me just say that we already took the first steps towards inline validation by using, and let me just switch back here, by using the attribute required. And what this does on a modern browser, when we fill in or when we don't fill in and we click a submit, we get this: please fill out this field, because it's empty and it's required. So when we fill them, both of them, we submit, and the form gets submitted. So, and that also works on this, on the sign up. So as I said, we already took the first steps. Now, how can we improve this? Well, we can already see some effects just by applying some simple classes, like and let's go create a new section down here, call it form validation, and let's just say input type equals text valid. So we're just using the pseudo class valid, and for that we're just gonna make, let's say, border green. Let's refresh. And oh, actually that's not the correct syntax, is it? 1 pixel solid green. So let me try this again. So there it is. If it's correct, and it is, because we actually filled in the input, it shows us the green border. If we take it, it's not valid anymore. So if we say, for instance, input type text invalid, and we say border 1 pixel solid red, we get this, because it's not valid. We fill in, it's valid. Now, there are a couple of drawbacks to this. For instance, you refresh a page, you don't have anything filled in, but the form shows you the inputs with a red color, and that's not good. So one solution would be to only show red when it's actually on focus, when the input is focused. So let's say invalid and focus, and that way it only shows us when it's focused. But what happens if we don't fill in anything? We don't have it anymore, and that's not good either. Or what happens if we set not focus but visited? So say we visited that form, we didn't input anything, but we still wanted to show red. Well, refresh. Now it's not showing, it's green, it doesn't work. But the thing is, neither of these methods work because it's not a very good user experience. So the solution came in the shape of a script from CSS Ninja here, and this is called the H5F script. You can also find a whole article on a list apart, Forward-Thinking Form Validation by Ryan Seddon. It's a great article about inline form validation, and the script that he made works very well, and I'll just show you. I've already downloaded the script. You'll find all the links that you need in the tutorial, and I've already downloaded the script and I've referenced it in my HTML file. Now all we need to do is activate it, and for that we actually need a form ID, and since we're only going to use form validation on the sign up form, let's say ID sign up form. And now we're going to go to functions, and we're going to say H5F setup, and we're going to reference the sign up form. So it's going to be form sign up form, and that's it. Or alternatively, to save us a bit of space here, we can also do div, so we can reference the div sign up content and form. So we're getting the form from the sign up content div. Okay, next thing that we need to do is get rid of these classes, and let's just refresh the page and have a look at some of these classes. So let's say I introduce something here, I'm leaving this blank, putting something in here, putting something in here, and something in here. Now obviously this is correct because it's filled in something. So if we look in the code, the input now actually has a class of valid, and that's because of the script. Once you put in something and you tab away, the script automatically checks what you introduced and gives it a class: valid, invalid, or required. So really all we need to do now is style these classes. Let's see, the desired username. Let's see, register username, and it has a class of required because we didn't actually input anything yet. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's style them. So we're going to say div sign up content form, and we're going to say clean form input with a class of valid. And for that, I'm going to use some icons from that icon set I was telling you about, and we're going to be looking for a check mark and a delete sign. So just bear with me while I find those icons. Okay, so we got the icons and I renamed them to validation error and validation OK. So let's go back to our CSS and we're going to say background URL img validation OK.png, and we're going to put it way to the right, so let's say 250 pixels, center, and no repeat. And let's check it out. Let's see, sign up content. Form, clean form, input with a class of valid. Validation OK, 200. Maybe this is too much. Yeah. Okay, so 220. Okay, that's pretty good. So let me just refresh the page here. So watch what happens. Take that out, the tick disappears. And we can do a bunch of stuff. We can modify the borders, we can modify the glow to reflect green color, but I'm just gonna stick with this little icon here. And the other one for the invalid state, we're gonna say validation error, but on this one we're also gonna change the border a bit. So border 1 pixel solid, and let's go back here and grab these two colors. And also we're going to change the box shadow. And to do that, let's go to the input up here. Grab this. And all we got to do is change the color for the outer shadow, which is this. Alright. So now, if we delete this, and actually, if nothing is put in, if nothing is typed in, then the input actually has a class of required. It's not valid or invalid. So it's kind of a middle solution, as you can see here. Look, class required, and you can style that as well. You know, put another icon there to show the user, hey, you gotta write something in there. But I'm just gonna stick with it like this. And in order to make an input invalidate, let's see if the email address will. Let's see if I put this in. No, this doesn't work. Let's see. Let's go back to the code. Let's see, email address. Type email. Let's make this required. Let's make the email address required. This is very weird. Class error. No, the class is correct, but I'm afraid I got the class name wrong. So it's not invalid, it's error. Sorry about that. So now, as you can see, the email address is invalid. So if you type something in, you got the full name, you got this right, you got the username, and when you get to the email address, if it's not correct, it's not gonna validate. But if you type in something that's correct, such as a real email address, then it's correct and it validates. So that's very cool. And let me just talk a bit about patterns. Now, you notice that we have between 6 and 20 characters here, but we're not actually forcing it to accept between 6 and 20 characters. If we do this, it's valid. So the way we can do that is by using another HTML5 attribute, which is called pattern. Now pattern, and let's go ahead and test it on the username. Pattern will use regular expressions. So for instance, if we want between 6 and 20 characters, the pattern will be something like this. So bear with me while I write it, and I'm going to explain it. Okay, so what we're saying here is that we accept characters from A to Z, from uppercase A to Z, from 0 to 9, and also it has to be a minimum of 6 and a maximum of 20. These two symbols represent the start and the end of a regular expression string. So let's go ahead and test that on the actual username. So if we enter 2 characters, it's not going to validate. It's just not enough. If we enter 6 of them, it's going to validate. Also, it's going to validate if we enter this or numbers. It's not going to validate if we enter a dash, for instance, because we didn't specify that we accept dashes. If we go back to the regular expression and set a dash here or an underscore, it means we also accept those characters. So now refresh, go back, it validates. So you can use regular expressions to create patterns for pretty much everything you need, whether it's a limit of characters to a set of characters that you want to accept or you don't want to accept. I've included a link in the tutorial to a site called HTML5 patterns. I think you'll find a bunch of patterns there for various regular expressions. But you know, you can also do a search for HTML5 patterns and you'll find a bunch of links. Okay, well that was it actually for the form validation. I think I covered all the stuff I wanted. And again, this works in using the script. It works in pretty much every browser. The author, Ryan Seddon, says that the script works even in IE7 and IE8. So the one thing that will not work in IE7 and IE8 is this bit that you see here. Currently, it only works in Firefox, Safari, and Chrome, and I think Opera as well, but I'm not sure. So if you want a good validation, use a server-side validation. That's my advice. Okay, so that was it for the validation. a couple of finishing touches right now, and I just found recently this quick trick from CSS Tricks. It's called Better Helvetica, and this is a snippet from font stacks. Basically, if you want to use Helvetica, why not use Better Helvetica? So you never know, maybe you have Helvetica New installed on your computer. In that case, you should see your website much better. So to demonstrate, I'm just going to go to Master CSS, and I'm going to change the font family from sans serif to this, which is a font stack. And this long string of fonts means that if you don't have Helvetica New Light, it will fall back to this. It will fall back to this, this, and finally to sans serif. So I'll also add font weight of 300 here. And let's see the difference. So this is before and this is after. It's much better looking. Look. And you can go to the website. I think it's codebuilder/font stacks. I included a link, and you can play around with the fonts there. But before we finish this tutorial, let's just throw this what we did so far on a server and check it in some other browsers, see what it looks like. Alright, so I've uploaded the files on my server, and I'm just waiting for Adobe to load. And we're just gonna have a quick look to see if we have any major issues with our layout. Alright, so this is IE7, and this looks pretty good except for this button, but this one uses the multiple backgrounds property, so obviously it's not going to work in IE. We have the fallback color, which works nicely. If you want, you can grab the CSS browser selector script, which I've used in my previous tutorials, and modify the style of the button according to the browser. We're not going to bother with that. I just want to see if we have any major design issues that we need to address, but so far it looks just fine to me. So, and also in WebKit it seems we have an issue with the padding here, but you can also target that properly and modify the padding. Alright guys, well that was it. I hope you found this to be quite helpful. I know I did. While learning about this inline validation, it's definitely a thing that I'm going to use in my future projects. So thanks very much for watching all the videos so far. Don't forget to subscribe to Web Design Tuts, and leave your comments. If you have any suggestions, questions, feel free to send me an email or leave a comment here or send me a tweet. I'll make sure I get back to you. But until then, this is Adi signing out.